Hello. We're back in business again. I say that the whole time. Everybody has these words that just keep coming back. Kwanzaa day 4. This is easier than what I was going to do. I was going to try and have another go at the soul retrieval issue, but it's still way too foggy in my brain, and I seem to not be able to really say it like it is or whatever. I just have lost my thread completely. However, here is another thread, the Kwanzaa thread. So I will just move on. Let's move on for now. Let's get something done. Okay? Today, day 4, is about cooperative economics. So I went, again, because it's about working together with people, which I do, which I know a few things about or have some experience with. I mean, I'm not 12, so, don't be silly. I have all these opinions about myself also. Don't you find that relatable? Aren't we all just so good at putting ourselves back or having some form of judgment in there always? Nah, I'm no good at this, or blah, 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 blah. Cooperative economics. So my current state of financial self-sufficiency. I have no financial self-sufficiency because it's all about the man in the house. And so that doesn't really, it doesn't bother me because it's a situation that we've grown into, and we could be richer, I suppose, but there will always be a we instead of an I. I have not had any luck getting financial independence at all. I grew up until my 20-something years of age, supported by my mother, who had a state allowance for having spent quite a bit of her youth in a concentration camp in Indonesia. So I didn't grow up. I grew up with the sense that money was there when needed, but it was never really an issue. And I also grew up without a telephone, without TV, and we didn't have a car. So any of you who can imagine what that is like, I still went to school, plenty. I always went to school. Wherever I was, whatever happened in all those years, I went to school. So learning and information and data processing in the brain, was something that was way more part of my life, way more part of my consciousness, I should say, of my awareness, than anything ever to do with money. And I'm thinking suddenly about my Saturn in Pisces in my horoscope, my chart, at the very end, in 29.5 degrees of Pisces. I don't know. All Saturn ever does is help me talk, because he's trining Mercury. So he helps me understand things. He puts all his effort into, but it's sort of no longer completely Piscean interpretation of Saturn anyway in my life. So money is something that, oh my God, yes, I gotta have some cash in my wallet to do this. Somehow there is cash in my wallet. Not enormous amounts, but quite enough to live on. And we eat very well, and we have clothes on our back, and the house is heated. My cats get to eat, What's to worry? So that's the way I tend to naturally look at finances. You have a certain amount of things, certain number of things that you really need in your life in order to survive. And I have never really figured out a way to build more. We had economic difficulties a couple of years back, and I'm not quite sure. I remember exactly how much I already said about this situation, but we were already then very much in an economic venture together. and we went bust. So after that, you have a lot of financial clearing up to do, but our costs also went down way down because we didn't have to pay people anymore, and we didn't have to we had huge expenses and not the matching income. So the story, is told all over the place with economic crises and stuff like that. You have invested tons of stuff in order to get things on the road. In my case, literally, because I was a sales representative for those years, and the magic just doesn't work anymore. So there's more going on about financial economics and supporting, finances and stuff. I tend to not think of money anymore, but I do think of wealth. And that's a completely different thing to me. I can feel very rich surrounded by what I have got. And especially with the immaterial values that I have inside of me that make me rich. There's only one thing that really makes me rich. It's compassion, I think. So, yeah. I have love of nature. I have love of, love in general between people and animals. Lots of good stuff, really. And it's more like participating in that flow and not blocking it, or be grateful. That's my motto. I have always had the motto because it was sort of instilled in me by my mother, definitely. And back in the day, it used to be just a mind thing. It was something you used to have to remember, that you always have to be grateful about what you got, And sorry, I have to just wriggle around a bit. So nowadays, since I have become emotionally so much more mature and all that, I find being grateful a natural thing. So let's get to these cards, please. Okay, I will put in the description that my cards actually start at 7:50. Okay, so sorry for the long intro. I had a couple of other things on my mind, and I just had to. It's not the right Mercury position today to do this. Whatever. My current state of financial self-sufficiency. We are back where we left off yesterday. The Knight of Cups. Queen Osset of Oya's Girls channel, she had the same card in another position, I think, and she interpreted it as joy. And then, I suppose, I completely get it. The traditional interpretation for the Knight of Cups is much more what I said yesterday, because I had it in the last position yesterday, as referring to a state of being a dreamer and being always in... So I'm quite glad I watched Queen Osset's video just now, because of this joy interpretation. I'd never really picked that up. And so, yeah, I can see also how that links up with yesterday, where we were saying an area of personal growth in my community efforts. Sharing joy, yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. I can be, I suppose it's not like flicking a switch, but it could be more of an effort on my behalf to be the happy camper that I can be. See the difference? Smile. Okay, so I will take this thing off my head also, because I don't really think that looks, it looks a bit housewifely, which is okay, fine, but this looks a bit more perky and also to myself. And if I see it, you get to see it. So, We are slowly, you know, getting there. I'm a Leo. It has to come in by increments. Now, the next card is quite funny. My current belief about my own economic power. Now, I could have predicted this almost. No, not the Nine of Swords. Death. Love the Death card. It's beautiful. See, it has an orchid there and a couple of... Here's the orchid. It's amazing. Must be the kindest, gentlest death card around. Economic power. Final found. Move on, quickly. My current attitude towards communal economics. I can't even read my own words. I have to figure out what it says here and then think. My current attitude towards communal economics. I don't have that much faith in communal economics because I don't think it exists. I think people tend to scrape for themselves and be very selfish. 10 of discs is my card. Now this, if you look at her up close, you can see those are two skulls right there. It's a bit of a scary... This would go very well as a death card if we didn't have the other one. I tend to always interpret this as a sort of a semi-death-ish. The 10, it's the Marielle. What can I say? It's always a bit complicated and there's always so much going on and it's also hyper-emotional and all sorts of... There's a cup in this card. She has a cup in the other hand that has blood gushing out of it, or that looks like it anyway. No control, 10 of cups, lost all control. So that's my current attitude towards communal economics, right? I don't think people have control. I don't think... Communal economics are all about gratifying the senses. Really, at the bottom. Nobody is responsible. Nobody shares responsibility. Maybe that's my point with this card here. It is the utter selfish, the pinnacle of selfishness in my country. Around me, what I can see. Things are sort of organized, sort of approached like this is something we have to think about. Nobody really steps in together. There's a couple of individual people who are trying to, you know, shout about things or about the environment and about poverty and about durability and you know, all that type of thing. But nobody does any of it together. The new economics that we all desperately need, all of us on this planet, including the animals and everything that is alive on this planet, desperately needs a new economics based on ideas that have been around for centuries. So yeah, I think this is a very appropriate card for me. I have no belief in the way things are going. This sounds very cynical or very negative. That it isn't, because I tend to think that when things are really desperate, then there's going to be some sort of a help is on the way. I mean, there's got to be... I don't think we're going to die here like this. We will figure it out. We will, at the end, somehow. Now, the next card, number 4, how can I improve my financial self-sufficiency? This was really weird, because since I don't have any financial self-sufficiency other than being joyful, the Knight of Cups, the card I first got was the Hermit. Now he's got plenty of joy because of all these beautiful waves curling around him and all that. So yes, I kind of see that, except that I don't want to be isolated anymore. I don't really want to be a hermit. A couple of years ago, yes, I would have seen how this worked. But then also, in the pack of cards as it was spread out before me, I was kind of fiddling around, feeling for the right card to pick. And I was hesitating between this one and this one. And this is the 10 of discs. So I kind of decided that I had to have 2 cards for this position about improving my financial self-sufficiency, which I still take to be that of my household and not so much my own individually. I have spooky moments about if something happens to my husband, because I wouldn't know what to do. I just have to have faith, right? Knight of Cups, that everything will be okay, and we will still be able to look after each other for a couple of years to come, at least. The 10 of Discs, to me, is a bit of a weird card. I associate it with a number of people, but I also see it very much as the love of the world. So there's the other side to the story, right? Weird, if I think of myself as a hermit, yes, as a hermit you can love the world better than ever. Okay. So I don't know what this has to do with my financial position. It's just that economically, or in terms of wealth, in terms of riches of all levels, it means being able to share, being able to accumulate, and being able to place value on every single item, which is something I don't do enough. I do it, especially in these vlogs, but sometimes I take quite a lot of things for granted still. So yeah, okay. From there, I can kind of see what I can do to. It's still so easy when I talk to people, which has happened in the past couple of days a number of times, to let their opinions and their mindsets kind of overwhelm me completely. And I end up shutting up and not saying anything and not sharing anything anymore. Because but then that's also my underbelly. So that's over now. Okay, we can go on. Moving on. How can I improve my beliefs about my own economic powers? And it's the Lovers. Close intimacy with my partner, of course, but also the welding together of different powers. And I suppose I will grow up in the end, and then that will happen, that welding. Something of those, along those lines. Who knows? I hope I'm not endlessly rambling about this in this situation here. The next one was really hard to grasp. The best way for me to contribute financially to my local community. Get the 2 of Swords. If you know what this means, please share if you like. Because cards speak the truth. I just don't really get it. Other than help make distinctions, help make decisions, which I do 24/7. So yeah, okay, I can live with that. And card number 7, who can I work with, or what are the best ways for me to work with cooperative networks and systems? That includes the tube, of course, and I get the 8 of Discs. This is rather a different 8 of Discs than the Rider-Waite-Smith versions, because it has to do a lot with protection, this one. But I've always been rather fond of the RWS versions, where somehow the 8 of Pentacles is always about the love of the work. So I'm kind of slightly diverging from this idea of protecting that which is fragile, yes. So speaking up whenever I can for that which needs a voice, the inner child, definitely. And then there's the second dimension of the traditional Eight of Pentacles approach, which would be more like, you know, diligently, bravely, keep at it, keep at the work, just patiently, for the love of the work, which is something I really like to think about. Actually, maybe I can look at my YouTube business as a bit more of a professional endeavor. Even that's a scary thought, because I don't think I've ever gone into this. I have a lot of hobbies, as you have seen. I tend to be rather artistic and do a lot of drawing and painting and all that type of stuff. I was a sales representative for 11 years for a company in this country. I was trained, actually I wasn't trained. I studied English language and literature in Amsterdam for 7 years or so. And after that, I have done the odd job as a translator. So I've done translation. I can do that with my eyes shut. I can, work back and forth between languages pretty easily, because I have been surrounded by foreign languages all my life. And that is really what should have been, or what might have been, my professional activity. I've given up. I've never really been interested, because there are hundreds of people every year who finish these language studies who are better equipped than I am to work with people, because of course it isn't about the text ever, it's about the people. So nowadays I can sometimes do an odd job here or there, but then it's way more from the communication angle, because I can see what somebody needs and then give them the text they need, or edit what they've already done for themselves, and then from then on out, see, I've never looked at things like they are a profession at all. So, because I didn't grow up with people in a profession either. My mother didn't have a job. And like I said, we lived on a state allowance and a state sort of a pension, really. And it was hence the death card. I mean, my belief at my economic power, I don't have any. But I am still here, and I still have some capabilities, and I have some things to share and some things to offer. And there are also a couple of things that I can share that aren't really shared ever by anybody else. So lately I have seen that as a pretty encouraging element in my life, that is actually possible for me to share or talk about things that that used to be very much Nine of Swords. To me, the Nine of Swords is really the most ordinary card of all by now. Because I used to be very, very afraid the whole time. And I'm going to record this in another vlog, just in a minute. See you very soon, guys.